Hey everyone, in today's video we've got a Pioneer SA8100 integrated amplifier. The word on the street is this thing will go into protection mode for seemingly no reason, just randomly while listening. That sounds like something we can fix here. But first let's take a look at this thing. Yes, it's been a minute since we've had some mid-70s Pioneer on the channel, and that's a shame because this stuff is always really easy to work on, it can almost always be fixed, and it just looks good too. This one has real wood finish on the outside. Some of the lower model stuff just had a veneer, but this is real as far as I know. Look at that, very nice. The SA8100 is rated at 40 watts per channel with its power amplifier. As you can see, we've got plenty of options for tone controls, switches, all kinds of fun stuff. What's also cool about this amp is that the faceplate is engraved. You can really see it in the Pioneer text right there. They didn't go cheapo silkscreen, they actually went through the trouble of engraving it. I can feel that with my finger. This amp sits right in the middle between the SA7100 and the SA9100, with the 9100 being top of the line for this time period as far as I know. Overall this thing's in pretty good shape, but not perfect. Got plenty of little dings and stuff up here. There's another one right there, right above the volume knob. Not a big deal. And case, overall, pretty good shape. Not too bad. Let's take a look at the back. Wow. So many options, lots to choose from. UL listed, how about that? We've got the pre-out and power in here, and it looks like you can switch between whether you want to use those or not. So it's set to normal there. I know on some older models you have to have jumpers there. This one is not one of those. And there you go, 170 watts. This is kind of cool. You've got right and left mic inputs right here, and then level controls for your phono 2 and aux 2. I don't know when you'd want to use those, but it's cool that they're there. Speaking of the SA7100, I'm actually an owner of an SA7100, so I'll get that out right now and we'll put them right next to one another and compare. So just thought I'd bring these both out and we can see the similarities. I think it's really cool how similar they are, but you can definitely see what the 7100 is missing and what the 8100 has. I'm also doing this because I really need to clean the controls on the 7100. I got this a very, very long time ago when I was not so bright and I cleaned the controls with something less than ideal. So we'll give those controls a deep clean. Maybe I'll put that as bonus footage at the end of the video. Alright, let's get testing this thing out and see what's going on. Alright, first things first, let's plug it in. Let's turn it on and see if we get a relay click. Well, we get a relay click, protection light turns off, but our power light is burnt out, so we'll need to replace that. I have no speakers connected. Since they said it can go in and out of protection, that might mean that we have excessive DC offset at the speaker terminals, and that would cause the protection circuit to go. So let's go ahead, we've got it set to, I'll do A and B speakers. Then I'll go back here with my probes and we'll see what kind of DC offset we're getting out of each channel. So this is the right channel. That is perfect. And then this is the left channel. And that is less perfect. Am I getting a good... Yeah, I mean, it's still well within reason. I'll check that right channel again. Okay, that's a more realistic number. Again, realistic. This should work. Kind of interesting that it checks out so good right now. Here's what I think I'll do for this one. I think I'll go in heavy, and I'm just going to get the load resistors out. And what we'll do is we'll just put a sine wave right through these. We'll hook everything up to the scope, and we'll see if we're making the 40 watts per channel just right off the bat. So give me a second to hook that up. If you don't know how I'm about to hook these up, I've got a video on this. I guess I'll put it in the upper corner. Alright, we're pretty much there. I'm going to turn the sound on. Make sure we're at max volume. And let's see if we've got anything. We do. Alright, let's switch this to AC. We've got 6 volts AC going in right now. And there's clipping. I'd say at clipping we get about 18.7 volts. And it's doing it. We are not in protection. Let's check DC. DC looks great in our right channel. So I mean we're going full bore here per se. and everything seems to be working just fine. The signal looks great, and I don't think I'd feel heat just yet. We're still pretty cold, but I don't feel anything. Okay, so 18.7 volts into 8 ohms is 43 watts. So we are in spec. I will go to the other channel with my voltmeter and scope, and we'll see what we see over there. All right, we are swapped over. Let's come back up on the other channel. About 18.7, similar situation. Any DC? Nope, nothing bad, pretty normal. Real quick, I want to show you what dirty controls looks like. Here's the balance knob, and you can see when I move the balance knob, everything is fine. Very smooth, nothing weird. But let's start going over here. See, look at all that mumbo jumbo when I move that switch. This one's not too bad. That one's not the worst. That one, not great. But it gets really bad up here with the treble control. Or it was earlier. Oh, wait, no. Sorry, it was the bass control. See, I mean, look at that. Like, it's going absolutely nuts. See? Look how dirty that bass control is. I can get the signal to do that. And then if I go back there, I don't know, this switch here is actually sending the... See, look what that switch just did. It just sent the amplifier straight into clipping. On the oscilloscope, we have found that the bass control is the dirtiest of all the controls. And now it's not so bad since I exercised it. But yeah, we'll hit this with deoxit later. Just wanted to show you all that little tidbit I noticed. I don't know, it's been maybe about 10 minutes. Nothing has happened. It's killing it. It's pushing the power. My load resistors are getting extremely hot though. I would not want to touch those. And they might be melting my anti-static mat here. So maybe what I'll do is I'll switch to music, since that is technically the failure mode, right? So I'll just turn on music. See, there's some music playing. It's actually Little Lies by Fleetwood Mac, but you'd never be able to tell that unless you're absolutely freaking insane. So, I got it. Alright, it's been, I don't know, 3 hours. I've just had it playing music casually. Look at this. Look at that jumping right there. That's DC, and you can see it right there in the voltmeter. That is the DC offset of this amp right now. It went to 0 because I switched it to B speakers, but like we are extremely unstable right now. So the protection circuit is working exactly as it should. This is on the left channel. Look at this. Look at that left channel right there. Look at that waveform just bouncing up and down. The clipping is moving around. Let me zoom in on that. That is not something you want to see. So look at that. It's just wildly unstable. So we'll need to track that down. We'll need to see if that's in the preamplifier or the power amplifier. Probably the power amplifier, but yeah, that is not right. We do not want that. And see, this is why I used the resistors instead of my speakers, because I don't want that stuff going on my speaker. You know, you see that line bouncing up and down? That's going to translate to the woofer moving in and out with DC, and if it's strong enough, it'll just blow the thing right up or burn up the coil. It's not designed for DC. It's not a heater. It is a speaker. So, alright, I guess I got to figure out where that's coming from now. So it's time to take the cover off. Here we are, folks, the belly of the beast. So we've got our transformer, our filter capacitors, and then looks like we've got various preamplifier boards. One of them's probably for phono. And then this is the power amplifier board right there. Kind of interesting right here. There's a scratch on the paint on the transformer. Wonder how that got there. I must not be the first person to be here, but it sure looks like I am. I mean, you've got the original relay right there because it's got the red wires. These filter caps, Elna, that's original. And then I don't see any new capacitors in here, and everything looks pretty stock. And we've got the usual culprits in here. Looks like that's a 2SA 726 maybe. Yeah, by the way, anybody who talks about these transistors with the black legs, that black stuff being oxidation, no, you're wrong. It was put there from the factory. It's a coating because you can see the uncoated leads right there. Anyways, here's the other culprit, the 2SC 1451. Those little cylinder looking guys. Let me whip out the schematic and let's see where the signal comes in. Oh, did you see that? We're not really doing anything. We're doing absolutely nothing here. I still have everything hooked up and plugged in. I never turned it off, but look at that. Like, we're getting DC offset all the way up beyond 2 volts. That's crazy. So if I were to bring the volume back up and we get some music going again, you know, it's only a matter of time before... Yep. Wow, that was great. That was excellent for the video. I promise I did not plan that. But yeah, there you go. We have replicated the failure mode. So, there it is again. We need to see where that's coming from. Is that coming from the power amplifier or the preamplifier? So, that's what I'll do. We need to find out where the pre-out is. What is the first thing that comes into this power amp? That's what I'm going to look at the schematic for. Okay, I looked at the schematic and I'm looking closer, and now I can see someone has definitely been here before, and I don't like what I see. So look at these 4 transistors right here in this little area. You got the 3 black ones and the 1 silver one. Now let's go to the same area over here. What's going on here? We have 2 silver ones and 2 black ones. Why is that? What's going on here? So, the service manual, according to the foil view, says that these 2 guys right here, they are Q2 and Q4, or Q1 and Q3, depending on the channel. And those are supposed to be the same transistor, and they're not. They're supposed to be 2SA 726s, and only one of them is. So that's already a bad sign. Whoever was over here, and you can hear that relay going, we're in deep trouble right now. Yeah, there it moved. Kind of fun to watch it move sometimes. Also, I read that the input for the amplifier is at pins 10 and pin 16. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our voltmeter or multimeter and we're going to put it there and see if we see anything. We are currently on pin 10 and it is quiet. I mean, that should be 0. And I think we're going to address the preamplifier later. But yeah, that should be 0. And it's not, which is certainly not a good thing. So maybe that's being amplified, actually. Maybe that's the cause of our stuff here. And it's not the power amplifier. Let's check out pin 16. Pin 16 is on the right channel. The right channel is behaving for us. So, okay. We're seeing the same thing out of pin 16, actually. So that makes this problem unique to the left channel. So it's probably not the preamplifier. Now, the purpose of the differential pair is to regulate the DC going through the power amplifier. So let's figure out which leg of the differential pair we should look at here. Your service manual doesn't give us much here, but let's just start poking around. Right there we got negative 40 volts. That feels like rail voltage, so that's fine. What is that? The emitter? That shouldn't be like that. Let's check that on the other side. Yeah, see, that's nice and stable on the right channel. We're looking at the emitter, and I think the service manual says it's supposed to be 0.6 volts. So immediately, right off the bat, we've got insanity over on the left channel here. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to turn it off, and I'm going to replace Q1 and Q2 with a matched pair. And I think that might solve our problem here. So let's get the bottom cover off of this thing. Yeah, you can already tell someone has been here before. I'll show you. On the right channel here, you can see where the solder joints look kind of like that. That's where someone's been. They didn't clean up the flux, which, you know, I never clean up the flux when I do this stuff, so I'm really one to talk, but I'm just pointing out that's how I know someone's been here. Alright, so it's pretty well known that the 2SA726 is a bad transistor, and you really shouldn't be keeping those around in this mid-70s Pioneer stuff. The suitable replacement is a KSA992, readily available on Mauser. So what I do when I buy these is I just read each one with my DCA55 right here, and I do it on the same day in the same room because these vary with temperature. So I've got them all laid out here, so what I got to do now is just find two that are the same number or a very close number. I see two 402s right there. And I see two 406s right there, so I'll use those for the right channel later when I inevitably go back and replace those. Next thing to know about these transistors versus the ones that are in here is the ones you're going to pull out are base collector emitter pinout, whereas these are emitter collector base pinout, and that's what I do. I kind of write on here. See, if you're looking at it from this point of view with the pins facing you, you go ECB. The ones you're going to pull out of here, they're going to be BCE. So it's just something to think about when you're doing this stuff. So I'm going to yank out Q2 and Q4. I think that's for the left channel. And replace them with this matched pair here, and we'll see what happens. Alright, so here's the two that I just pulled out. This is original. Trust me, it does say A726. There's no way I'm going to get that to show up on the camera. I could barely read it myself. And then this is, I don't know what the hell this is. I think whoever worked on this last knew of electronics and knew enough to be dangerous. But you never have two dissimilar transistors in the differential pair spot. Like, you know, I'm really one to talk, but one of the first things I learned working on this stuff is, you know, the diff pair on an amplifier. You can see it in the schematic very easily every time. And you want them to be matched. You want the gains of the transistors to be the same. So I'm willing to bet when we put these transistors in, it's going to fix the problem. Okay, there's that. I'll put two screws back in here and we'll power this thing back up. Okay, should I be on the dim bulb? Yeah, probably. But I feel okay. I haven't done much. So let's plug back in. Got it on DC, got the scope still on. Let's see if we still have, no. Gotta plug it back in. Every time, folks. I swear it's not a bit that I do it every time. Okay, in protection, out of protection. Stable. Nothing is happening. Alright, so there we are, blasting music. Go back down. Stable. Pause. Go back to the sine wave. Bring that up. Clipping at, what is it? 19 now. So we gained power, or it's just warmed up. What's our DC? Nothing. Excellent. That is what we want to see. I'll bet the right channel is not looking nearly as good as that. Let's take a look. So the meter's on the right channel. We're at 10, so okay, I thought it'd be worse. But yeah, without even setting the DC offset on the left channel, we're doing excellent. That is awesome. Okay, fixed. We're done. But wait. What if we just shotgun replaced every transistor and every capacitor in the entire amplifier? No, but for real, folks, I don't normally go for that, but when it comes to this vintage of Pioneer, every single time I get these in, it is something to do with a 2SA726 or a bad cap or something. So to do this one right, we do need to go through and do quite a bit more stuff to it. So that's what the rest of this video is going to be. We have repaired it. We did the hard part, which requires, you know, thinking and stuff. Now it's time to just kind of have some fun and just replace components and bring this thing back up to basically what it was like new. Alright, we're going to start on the bottom. This is the protection circuit, and this is where I found the mismatched fasteners. You have to move this out of the way with this metal bracket here. Here's one screw, and here's two screw. When you move this out of the way, you have access to the circuit board for the power amplifier. So I'll probably start my work here, and then, since we'll have this apart, we'll move on to the protection circuit, and we'll take care of some transistors we've seen fail on another Pioneer. Longtime viewers may remember the SX737 that wouldn't go out of protection. That would be due to some of the transistors on that board, so we'll just be replacing those. Everything else should be okay. I think up here, this one right here I believe is the microphone preamp, and this right here is the power supply. I will certainly check all the capacitors on here with my meter. I'll check them in circuit and make sure everything's okay. I'll also look at the bottom of the board and make sure there are no bad solder joints. Then as part of the cleaning, we'll have to remove this face plate, probably remove these boards, flip them out like this, and then we'll be able to get the switches really nicely and easily. While we're under here, let's just switch it up real big and keep it entertaining. The filter capacitors, let's check those. With that, we're going to use the ESR 70. This is checking for ESR, it is not checking for leakage. But as we just saw, the power amplifier is working very well. And these are rated at, these are 50 volt, 10,000 microfarad capacitors. An ESR of 0.04 on something this size is good, and we are above 10,000, so that's good. And then the bottom one, let's check that one. Our ESR is even lower, and our capacitance is similar. So these filter capacitors are good. I will not be touching them. I'll flip you around. Let's take a look at the top here. Up top, we've got the power amplifier board, which is where we just were. You can see my two matched KSA 992s right there. On this board, we'll be replacing, I guess we'll just replace all the capacitors since there's not that many. And then all of the small single path transistors, we'll get rid of those, including that cylindrical one there. The ones on the heat sinks, I've never seen those fail. Then of course the outputs are doing just fine. If I'm feeling spicy, maybe we'll do a reapplication of the thermal compound. Then over here, this is either the preamplifier or the phono preamplifier. Not sure just yet. We will replace the bad transistors on there because we definitely know there's some 2SA726s on there. And then up here is a similar situation. Got some more of those transistors in there, so we'll want to get rid of those and maybe consider a recap. So that's kind of the game plan here. I guess I'll get started on the bottom. Like I said, we'll start working on the power amplifier board. Alright, so for this power amplifier board, we've got all of our replacement parts ready to go here. So we'll start with the beginning of the signal path. We got these two capacitors right here. These are the blue Sanyos that are known to get leaky. So what we've got for the replacements is I've got some unobtainium L-Nasilmic 2s and some also I think unobtainium Nichicon gold tunes, or fine gold, sorry. They are 0.22 microfarad, the small one, and 0.47 microfarad, the bigger one. So these are the 0.22s, these are the 0.47s. They're a higher voltage rating, but that's just kind of what we have to deal with here. The rest of the capacitors, these 4 gray ones and these 2 gray ones, those are 47 microfarad. These are only a 10 volt, but I only have 50 volt, so we're just going to replace all 6 of those with 50 volt, 47 microfarads, Nichicon PW power grade. These two right here, they're 22 microfarad, 10 volt. I've got some 22 microfarad, 50 volt. That'll be just fine. And then these blue ones right here, these are 330 microfarad, 10 volt capacitors. I've got some Nichicon KA 330 microfarad, 16 volts. So we'll put those right there. Keep going with the blue theme here. Now transistors. This is the matched pair on the left channel. We've already taken care of this. So we'll get the matched pair on the right channel. That's these two right here, two matched KSA 992s. And then these guys out here on these sides, we're going to be using KSC 2383 in place of the C869. And then we will use KSA 1013 in place of whatever the heck is in here. I don't think it matches what's in the service manual. I think it's supposed to be a 628. So that's how we're going to go about that. And these are recommended replacements from the SA8100 recap sticky on Audio Karma. So that's where I'm getting a lot of this information. This one's going to be tough to record because I'm going to do it with the unit on its side, so we'll just come back when it's all done. Alright, power amplifier board is done. I'll give you a little close-up. There's all the new components on there, and the old ones are kind of sitting off to the side over there. That's all the old stuff. I tested all of the capacitors and found something a little bit interesting. I found that these gray ones were basically all in spec, and I'll just kind of prove that to you real quick with a completely random one of these with our little tester here. This is supposed to be 47 microfarads, and it's 48 microfarads with a perfectly reasonable ESR. So all these gray ones are good, but here's where it gets pretty interesting. These blue ones right here, these are the 330 microfarads. These are actually right out of the signal path, and I want to show you what's going on here. On this one, it's supposed to be 330, we've got 428. So that's way high, which implies on an ESR meter that it's likely a leaky capacitor. And now here's the other one from the other channel, 199 microfarad. So you've got two completely different ends of the capacitor failure modes here. We never listened to this amplifier before this, but I wonder if we would have been able to hear any difference between the channels. Probably not, but it's really interesting seeing those numbers. And there's your two replacements right there, our Nichicon KAs. So what I'd like to do at this point, actually, is I want to listen to this amplifier. I still haven't heard it. So I want to change that. Let's take a listen to this thing and see how it sounds. Okay, we are hooked up. I have turned it on since redoing this, so I know I at least got this right enough, and I checked the DC offset, and it was good enough. So let's go ahead and listen to, I don't know, how about everyone's favorite song. Okay, it's playing. And there you go. Sounds like a Pioneer. Nice punchy bass, clear treble. And you can really boost it quite a bit with this knob right here. Well, both of them really. And yeah, there you go. Now we're finally hearing what we were seeing with the oscilloscope there, to the point where that channel just completely goes out, and we can bring it back. So, crazy! Yeah, this thing is in dire need of a controls cleaning. So, we will certainly get to that, but I just wanted to hear this for the first time. Normally, that's the first thing we do with these things, is we take a listen, but given the information we were given, decided to just go right ahead, go to the oscilloscope with the load resistors, and find our failure mode that way. And that worked. It paid off. So while we're in this general vicinity of the power amp board, we're going to go ahead and replace the mica insulators and thermal compound on the output transistors. So to do that, I had 2 screws on each side of the heatsink that were in these brackets here, like this. And then we had 5 screws on this circuit board. And then I undid the protection circuit mounting thing underneath like you had seen earlier. What that allows you to do is it allows you to kind of tilt the whole thing out kind of like this. Oh, I also undid these temperature sensing diode screws and set them free because you don't want to break these leads. And then just like that, suddenly you can slide this whole thing out and you've got access to the screws for your output transistors. And all I'm doing here is I'm taking out these 2 screws, and then this should just come right out if I tug with my fingers. It's coming loose. Sometimes you can get a small flathead in there to help it along. But careful not to scratch the heatsink. There we go. And then the insulator got left behind, so go right there, and there's the insulator. So for these insulators, you might as well just replace them. They're not very expensive. Mauser part number 534-4636 if you want to buy your own brand new mica insulators for TO3 style transistors. God, this camera sucks. I just bought a new camera. Like, it's in the mail right now, and I don't know, got a real good deal on eBay, so we'll see what that ends up meaning for me. Hopefully it doesn't mean that I got scammed, but you know, we'll see. Anyways, what I like to do with these is I like to put some thermal compound on the paper towel, and then I do this in a certain order. I like to first put this on the transistor, and only the back side, right? Just a nice light coating on the back, making sure we don't get in contact with the pins. And then I'll take that same Q-tip and I'll put stuff on one side of the mica insulator. Only one side though. Okay, so there we are on the one side. We're going to take the wet side and make sure it remains face up, if we can pick it up. There we are. And these only go on one way, so make sure you've got the holes kind of lined up with here. Like, this will be wrong and this will be right kind of thing. So we'll just slide this right on, like so. And now we have thermal compound between the mica and the transistor. And then we'll have thermal between the mica and the heatsink. But what's cool about this is the mica insulator is bigger than the transistor, and on this side it's all dry, so we won't get any stuff on our fingers. Because this thermal compound, it goes everywhere. And then we got to go back to the amplifier, make sure we go in the correct way, and then there's like a socket on the back of the heatsink that accepts the transistor, and you'll have to make sure you got your finger behind that so you can get the pins to go inside of the sockets. And here's an easy way for me to do it. I'll put my left hand back here, and then I can get it back in, and there I am. I'll put the screws in, And then I'll do that for the remaining 3. I got that done. I just realized, I don't know how I missed it, there's 2 screws missing per side on the heatsink and then 1 screw missing per side on these brackets. So I don't know why these are missing. That's really confusing to me. Why was this taken apart so much for just the few little transistors that needed to be replaced? I don't know. But here we are. Anyways, I think I'm going to move on to the protection circuit down below. And that is this guy right here. So, like I'd mentioned, we had seen the 869 transistors fail before, so we'll replace those. An 1845 should do okay there, I think. So Pioneer like to use these little plastic clip things to secure their boards to their stuff. So I think what's going to be easiest for this one is if we put this metal bracket back in place. Now that's secure, it'll let me come in with the pliers and we can do the pinch and pull back thing. Alright, so that one broke. I feel like it hasn't been until like this year I've started seeing these break. Like in the 2010s, these wouldn't break for me, but now it's a little different. Yep, that one broke too. However, when they do break, they still hold the board, so it's really not that big of a deal, but it is extremely annoying. That's for dang sure. Okay, there. And now our board is loose, and we can pull it back and do all the work we need to do. So for this board, I want to replace Q1 and Q2. What's in here is not what's in the service manual, which is kind of interesting, but I've seen these 2 transistors fail in a different Pioneer. The SX737 and all the Pioneers of the mid-70s with the protection circuit, they basically use this board in some form or another. So Q1 and Q2, those should be replaced with the KSC 1845. And these little tiny light blue caps, those tend to fail, so those should be replaced also. And these other transistors, I don't know of any known issues with them per se. So we'll do those 2 transistors and all 6 capacitors. Let's go. That one's done. Got our 6 capacitors and our 2 transistors. I got that one kind of crooked. Oh well. I'll forgive myself. And now let's see if I was right about how even though they're broken, they'll still snap into place just fine. Alright, well this has turned into an absolute nightmare. This one broke. They're all broken, you can barely get them on, and then I broke this one so much that it doesn't really hold the board too well, but luckily I found these in my stash. Hopefully this can go through the board here without too much trouble. No, it can't. Alright, so this was too big for the holes in the board, but it was just right for the holes on this mounting thing here, so I just put it through there, and then this is just some random screw that happened to thread itself into this nicely enough. It's a machine screw, Not a plastic screw, but I mean, it's gonna hold, and it's not very difficult to get this apart. Let's see if this thing protects itself. Listen for the click. Ooh, somebody did something wrong. What did I do wrong? I know what I did wrong. I know exactly what I did wrong. I had my KSA 992s out and just assumed they were 1845s. Dirt. That was stupid. Okay, and I just went through all this. It was so bad getting this thing back on, and now I gotta do it all over again. Oh well, it'll be alright. In other words, I put PNP transistors where they're supposed to be NPN transistors. Basically, I put the opposite of what I should have. Alright, let's see if that was it. Yep, that was it. Easy. It's good to know the mistakes you make, right? Always good to know. Many of you talk about in the comments section how much you love it when I talk about my mistakes. So, there you go. That was a little mistake, but it was big enough to make the entire amplifier not work at all. So let's wrap up this protection circuit and move on to the power supply. Oh boy, this is gonna suck. There's no way these plastic clips are making it out alive. There's just no way. Yep, I didn't even pinch that hard and it's already... Sometimes I wonder why I torture myself and put things sideways when I could just put them upside down and it'd be better for me to work on it and easier for you all to see what's happening. Oh well. Looks like I've got barely just enough to make do here. Yeah, look at that. Alright, so on the power supply, I found that this capacitor right here is reading a little bit high in terms of capacitance, and I don't like how the casing is kind of slid down a little bit. And it appears to be the same variety as these guys here. So we want to replace these two, but all these 220s, these are all 220 50 volt, they're fine. And then in terms of transistors, these TO220s right here, I want to replace these because these are the hottest transistors in the whole thing, and especially these D313s, they are known to fail. So I'm gonna do my best to get in here and get these caps out. It's gonna be a little painful, but it's a little easier to reach these transistors, luckily. You know, one thing I want to mention with these transistors here, if you're doing this stuff and you elect not to replace these, at an absolute minimum, you must reflow the solder joints on the bottoms of these, because think about it. I mean, they've got heat sinks on them. These get really hot to the touch when they're running. And this board sits in here upside down. So all that heat's going this way, right? And I'm not going to be able to show you, but these solder joints, they don't look that good. They look like they're a little bit cold. Like they've got a little circle around them, which means, you know, they've been heat cycled so many times, eventually they're going to become completely ineffective. So, I don't know if you knew this, but when you read these transistors, it'll often say 2SA or like KSA. If it's got an A or a B, it's a PNP. If it's got a C or a D, like this 2SD, that means it's an NPN. So these guys Suitable replacements are the modern KSC 2073 and KSA 940. When you buy them from Mauser, they'll give them to you like this. And you can just kind of take one out like that. So it is the A940 will take the place of the B, and then the C2073 will replace the D313. And to replace these guys, we'll just undo them with our JIS screwdriver. You can see they put some thermal compound stuff there, but it's not doing much for us now. I still have out the Dow 340 from when we did the output transistors. So we'll just take that and we'll throw it back here. And then we'll put this back on the heatsink with the screw. I'll make sure as we tighten this that we keep the transistor straight. See, I wanted to kind of go to the side there. And the last thing you'll do is we're going to bump out the middle pin here. We're going to take the pliers, we're going to go right here. Then we're just going to kind of pull this thing, grab a little bit up here. Just going to pull it back, just like that. And then what that's done is it has given us this pin to be out so it can line up with the circuit board. And then before you solder this, you're going to put the screw back in, because you do not want to screw or torque on your completed solder joints. Okay, that concludes my work on the power supply board. So now we gotta put it back. Well, I think now would be a good time to go for the controls. I think we should remove the faceplate and flip these boards up, and that will give us best access to all the things we need to see. There, now we can kind of see some of the dirtiness that has been here. We'll just take all these felt guys and we'll flip them backwards when we put this back together, and you won't be able to see the dirt as much. But anyways, the reason we did this is I want to be able to pull out these boards, and these boards are secured with screws right in here, and we should be able to loosen these screws and then undo at least this nut. 12 millimeter. And yeah, this will, see how loose that is now? That'll let us just kind of slide that out. If you're uncomfortable, like I am, you can give yourself a little bit of extra stuff by undoing the chassis itself. It's just these 3 screws here. Of course, if you do this, you got to understand what else you're stretching on the thing. But yeah, see, look what that gave me. Gave me a lot more clearance. So for the switches, we will go ahead and use Deoxit D5. I can kind of see the whole thing moving around in there, so I can just kind of, well, really, there's lots of access points for these switches. It's kind of hard to mess it up. And for this potentiometer, we'll go with the F5. Look at that excellent access I have there. That's awesome. And then I found some more stuff under here. Some problematic transistors and capacitors. Interesting. We'll go look at the service manual and see if that's worth replacing or not. Yeah, that right there is a little extra amplification stage. And the signal path goes right through it. Kind of interesting, these integrated amps, they've got little extra Easter eggs that the receivers never got, like, you know, stuff like this. And then as we go to the preamp, we're going to see that the preamp actually uses a differential pair, which is something you normally only see on the power amplifier, but you see it in the preamp on this one. The blue Sanios that get leaky, and those are the 2SC1313 transistors, where the counterpart, the 726, the A726, can get pretty bad. So I'll just go ahead and recap this board while we're here. Yeah, so for example, that L Nasilmic 2 cap I just put in, 1 microfarad 2.8 ESR. I want to show you what I pulled out. 22 ohms ESR. It's a little different. And while we're on capacitors, from the power supply earlier, I want to show you what happened with those. So one of them, I don't remember which one. Look what happens when I plug it in. Okay, well, 124. That's the one that made me think. Probably not, because that's a little bit high. That's beyond 20%. But this one right here, look at that. I think it failed as it came out, and that's the one that had the I don't know, the sticker or wrap kind of sliding down. So see, we're finding all kinds of good things that shouldn't be in here. Well, bad things, right? Got a little sidetracked there, but yeah, we redid a board we didn't anticipate redoing. We cleaned these switches with D5 and F5. I cleaned this switch and the selector switch. So I think I'll put this one back and we will move on to the next one. I think that more or less concludes our activities down here. I'm going to put the chassis back together, and then we'll move up top and get the rest of those switches. Alright, now I've got my eye on this board here. I see these transistors here, and they've got to go. So that's what I'm going to work on, getting rid of those. Everything else here, I mean, people replace the tantalum capacitors sometimes. I left those on the 838 that I did recently, and I kind of poked around with a few of them. They all tested fine, so I have not seen one fail, well, except in the famous Mend It Mark copyright video on that phono preamp. But me personally, I haven't seen one fail. Okay, yeah, this is the preamplifier. This is the phono preamp. Alright, in Pioneer terms, this is the control amp and this is the EQ amp. And both use a differential pair front stage, which is kind of interesting. Check out the schematics for this thing if you're into this and you're bored sometime. It's pretty interesting. This is not like a Pioneer receiver. They did things... This is special. This is different. But anyways, I'm gonna get these four. These silver transistors, they're probably fine. We're just gonna get these four real quick here. There we are. Alright, what do we got here? We got a bunch of C1313s, which means we need a bunch of KSC 1845s in here. I'll poke around and check some of these capacitors a little bit, see if there's anybody that sticks out. Should be 100. It is. This should be 100. It is. I think I'll pull those guys just in case. We'll take a look at those. It's supposed to be 1 microfarad. What do we have? double what it's supposed to be. Yeah, we don't want that in there. We will replace that. Look at that, my very last Elna Silmic 2 1 microfarad capacitors. It's kind of a weird thing. I've had these for so long, and now you can't buy them anymore. They get to live in here now. Alright, transistor time. And with that, we might be good to go. Okay, I guess I'll start by plugging it into the dim bulb. Let's turn both of these on. Excellent. Protection circuit clicked in. So now we can check the speaker terminals for bad things. Oh, folks, I bought a new toy. I got some Probe Master multimeter probes. These came with this set here. So now what I can do is, instead of like putting a alligator clip on my multimeter, what I can do is I can just put the alligator clip right on my multimeter, like this, right? And then there's my test. At the speakers we have 32 millivolts, which is fine, and 17 millivolts. I would plug a speaker into that, so I will. We have some general ground noise, but that's probably because the bottom cover is removed. We'll confirm that when we can. But until then, I believe we can listen to everyone's favorite song, right? Yes. That sounds great. Loudness is too much on this thing, man. Alright. Oh, jeez. I forgot. I've got this extra lamp in my collection that we can use to replace the power lamp. That's the last thing we must do here, aside from, you know, putting it back together. We are about ready to test this thing out and see how much power it's making again, but first we should probably do the DC offset and bias adjustments. Now for the bias adjustment, it's got something really interesting noted. It says it wants me to, quote, terminate the input terminals of the power amplifier unit with a 4.7k ohm resistor. So I've got one of those right there, and my interpretation of that is you just put that across the inputs. So that's pins 10 and 16 on this thing. So there we are, we've got it terminated. It wants us to remove the loads, so we have no output connected to it, no speakers per se. Now let's start with the left channel. It wants us to put our multimeter across pins 1 and 2. I'll use my new probes here. So there's pin 1. Let's get pin 2 in here. And there we go. It wants us to adjust it for 20 millivolts. Alright, so we're done. Let's move on to the right channel. That's going to be pins 24 and 25. And we adjust that for 20 millivolts. We're a little lower on this one, so let's bring that up ever so slightly. Wrong way. There we go. 20. Let's check out the DC offset. For the left channel, we will check on pin 3. Let's bring that back in. get it back to 0. This thing is absolutely perfect right now. And now we are to remove this termination here. So that's done. And now we can hook our resistors back up and we can see how much power we're making. Alright, pardon the mess. We've got this thing hooked up to the right channel. Let's bring up our volume and check out this sine wave, see when we start clipping. I think right around there. Yeah, I'm going to call that 19.3 on the right channel. So now let's switch over to the left. I think we had 18.7 before. So that's a small improvement, but it's probably just because the amplifier is actually warmed up now. I don't know how much that actually has to do with anything I did to it. Alright, hooked up to the left. Let's bring it up. Yeah, right about there. Wonder why that one's a little bit less. Yeah, I do not know why we have that 0.6 volt discrepancy in clipping voltage between the channels. They both clip the same, and I can tell you, I've spent some time listening to this thing and I'm quite impressed with it. I think it sounds really, really good. I don't even know where I'd begin looking for the reason for that discrepancy, so I'm just gonna call it done because it sounds good, and that's what matters at the end of the day. It's really the only thing that matters, is that it sounds good. So here they are, all the components we replaced in this thing. This was a pretty long one, and I think we're finally at the end here. So I will say thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. There's lots of cool stuff coming, and I think I'll take a minute to show you what's been happening around here before the end of this video. So subscribers, stick around. I'll show you some stuff. All right, first of all, I am not going to do controls cleaning on this thing. You just saw the other one, and there's no need. Second, we've got some boxes here. These are both eBay purchases, so these will be good videos, hopefully. Hopefully you like them. Third thing is I'm considering consolidating some of my inventory here. There's some stuff in here, this in particular. I do not need some of this stuff, and I'm considering selling it. So this thing, I love this amp, but it's just sitting, it's not getting used. And then over here, this is my Marantz collection, I guess. This is the PowerWash 2230. I don't really know what to do with it. I wonder if it would be a cool thing to go on eBay or something. I wonder what it would sell for. Curious to know what you would think. And fourth thing is we've got a new member of the family here. Unfortunately, if you came here for the BMW 1-minute videos, there will be no more of those. This is the replacement for that vehicle, a 17 Forester. Then over here, this is going to be an interesting video. I found this locally with a food manufacturer. They said it wasn't working right, and I figured, how hard could it be? We'll see how I feel when it's over. But right now it's fully torn down. It's not over yet. And then that's where my SA7100 normally goes, with its matching TX7100 tuner. And then, of course, the elephant in the room, the Land Cruiser, and the 1FZ FE engine out on the stand. There's a empty engine bay for the Land Cruiser, if you're ever curious to see what an 80 series looks like without an engine. And then there's the transmission peeking around the corner there. This whole thing came out as one. We lifted it right out, all three, engine, transmission, and transfer case, all connected. So that was fun. Got it pretty high. And here's the rest of the parts. I don't remember the last update I showed. The head's been redone, new springs, new seals for the valves, and we got to get the cams sent out to be cleaned up. And there's all the rest of the parts that go to the Land Cruiser. And I really hope this new camera is faster with stuff like this. Rare. Anyways, Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments if you have anything to comment on with anything I just said or questions about the repair. Oh yeah, and then I haven't been recording outside because right now it is negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit outside, and I don't want to be out there in that. And during the day it's not much better. And there's been a lot of snow too. Okay, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one.